just now.
All right, got it. Okay, thank you very much. All right, folks, here we go again. Greetings, greetings, greetings. This is August 11th, 2023. And once again, as host of the Freedom Friday Forum, I greet you, my peeps. It's always a pleasure to have folks on this forum. This Freedom Friday Forum today has a very important subject, that being education of our very young people, our African youth. And we have aboard on the panel some very experienced persons in educating African youth. As a matter of fact, they are probably the most experienced, other than one person who is missing, Baba Zulu, who unfortunately will not be able to be on the panel because he had a family emergency and he's actually flying out of DC at this very moment. So we will try and do our best without him. And we have people here who probably can give us some background on Baba Zulu and what he has done for education. But we also have something special. Mama Berdina on this program here with us tonight is retiring at the end of this month. She is giving up. You're not giving up. I mean, I'm sure you can't give this up. She's standing down and allowing the youth to now run things where she was, and she will be an emeritus person within that organization. And so, Mama Berdina, congratulations on your retirement and all the best for the future.
Thank you.
It's great to have you on board here this evening. But you know, let me do some formalities here that we normally do when we open up our Freedom Friday Forum. This is the UNIA-ACL Woodson Banneker Jackson Bay Division 330 of the Rehabilitating Committee 2020. And we do this forum twice monthly on different subject matters. And it's always a pleasure. And I mean that to the bottom of my heart, because whenever I leave this stuff, I am always feeling so good that I think, well, despite what we may see and hear about African people, there is some hope. So, and we discuss these things because hopefully we will get some things done that will righten the ship if it's canting to one side or rocking too much. We will have steady this ship and lead it on to that destination, that port of African redemption. So I will read firstly the official UNIA pledge to the flag. I commit my body, mind, and spirit to the protection, defense, and security of the red, black, and green. I dedicate my life to the redemption of Mother Africa and the liberation of her scattered Black children. I accept for myself and my descendants the teachings of universal African nationalism, and I promise that our children will be instilled with the purpose and knowledge of themselves as African people, in order that the cause of our struggle will neither falter nor fail until all Black people are free and united through one God, one aim, one destiny. So you see, folks, enshrined in the Constitution, enshrined as policy for the UNIA-ACL RC20, when you listen to that pledge or you read that pledge, or you observe what's in that pledge, you understand why we can have a program that we do here tonight, because we are of African people. So let me also give a broader distinction here. The Universal Negro Improvement Association. This is the preamble of the Constitution, mind you. Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities League is a social-friendly, humanitarian, charitable, educational, institutional, constructive, and expansive society, and is founded by persons desiring to the utmost to work for the general uplift of the Negro people of the world. And the members pledge themselves to do all in their power to conserve the rights of their noble race and to respect the rights of all mankind, believing always in the brotherhood of man and the fatherhood of God. The motto of the organization is one God, one aim, one destiny. Therefore, let justice be done to all mankind, realizing that if the strong oppresses the weak, confusion and discontent will ever mark the path of man. But with love, faith, and charity towards all, the reign of peace and plenty will be heralded into the world, and the generations of men shall be called blessed. Therein, folks, is a distinction of what we are. I say that because we have to believe in this if we are going to move forward as a people. I have on board with me as well the first assistant President General of the UNIA-ACLRC 2020, Baba Senghor Baye. We have the President General, who is at the moment he's off for a while. Oh no, he's still here. Oh, President General, I'm sorry. Okay, Baba Malik.
That's not a problem, Baba Mosey. I'm here,
yes.
and I'm an old school teacher too.
Yes, there you go. And we also have the Minister of Education of the UNIACL-RC 2020, Mama Tendai. She's here with us. So this is going to be, I think, a discussion and a historical review of what has been the struggle of the Black man here in the United States to educate in a positive sense so that we can move forward and be free. Also, we have, let me also mention on the panel, we have Brother Sam P.K. Collions. Brother Sam P.K. Collions, a journalist as well as an educator. And recently, he wrote an astounding article about Mama Bernita. She's still smiling. that article, yes, indeed. We love that article. And let me say, Reverend,
yes,
RG, well, you know, would you be so kind as to be part of the panel? Since
yes,
we don't
sir.
have, all right. Well,
It's an honor. It's an honor.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I listen. If when Mama Bernita, and this is not the only the time that I have to deal with Mama Bernita. When Mama Bernita says, you have to listen. You know that. She says you need to be on there, and I fully agree. All right.
Absolutely.
So,
She never asked me twice anything. It's only one time.
All right.
I won't allow her to ask me twice.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, first I have to go back again to Mama Bernita because, she's, she has been with this school, Roots. I almost said Roots Activity, but it's that too, right? Roots Activity. That's your first. And then you have the public charter.
That's right.
Yes, so, well, I'm not gonna, not as yet, but I'm hoping that you can give us a background of how you started. You know, don't leave out anything, issues, whatever it is, as much as you can give, because people need to know, this is not easy. This is not easy. And I don't mean just dealing with the authorities when it comes to educating our folks. I mean dealing with our own folks. So that's why I say don't leave out anything. Just give it to us, what we have to do and say. All right. So I'll start with you, Mama Bernita.
Okay, well, thank you for inviting me to this panel. I believe in African-centered education and Pan-Africanism. And it's very important that we first understand what we mean, the difference between schooling and education, okay? Schooling focuses on pure, data-driven, rigorous reading, writing, and math skills. But education is what we're doing for African-centered education. We have schools, but we're not focusing on schooling. We're focusing on education, and education focuses on the inculcation of culture, social, emotional development of the children, and releasing inner talents of the children so that they can become skillful and productive in society as they also achieve the basic skills of reading, writing, and math. So that's important that we understand the difference between schooling and education. Then the next thing is, well, what do we mean by African-centered education? The father of African-centered education in the United States is Baba Zulu. Baba Zulu started back in the 60s when he was with all of the 60s people that did all the marches and the sit-ins, and he went to jail, got busted up inside his head, bleeding in the street, and I mean, just all of that, all of that. He is a hero. And in 1968, he opened the first African-centered school in Washington, D.C. It was in Washington, D.C. And then different schools began to come after that. Roots Activity Learning Center came in 1977. So that was like 9 years after Baba Zulu opened his school. In between that time, Nation House opened, and then there were different other schools that began to open all over the country. And the organization that we all came together in was called CB, the Council for Independent Black Institutions. It is still going on. Roots Activity Learning Center and Ujamaa are still part of CB. CB is still continuing. So that is basically the history of the African-centered independent schools. Now, as I said, in 1977, I opened Roots Activity Learning Center, and I started it. I was the only one that opened it for infants. That was very selfish of me because I had just had my infants, so I was going to have infants in my school. Okay. And anybody else who wanted to join in could join in. So I opened the infant.
It was not selfish, Sister Queen. It was not selfish. It was pointed.
It was pointed, okay. So I opened the infant center, and then the school went from infant center to kindergarten. Why stop at kindergarten? Because my two children, one was an infant, one was in kindergarten. So everybody in the community who had infants through kindergarten that wanted to come in with me, they joined me. Mama Rena, Reverend Rena, that you see right there. She was one of my first teachers, and also helped me in the office and everything. She's a freedom fighter, and she was a pioneer in African-centered education. So as my children, again, grew older, when my daughter became first grade, then the school went from infant center to first grade, and it kept going until they got to 8th grade. That was it for me. I couldn't do, I what, teenagers, no, but I can go through 8th grade. I'm good with that. And so the school went from kindergarten, 6 weeks old infants through 8th grade for many, many years. And as I said, it started in 1977. So 22 years later, which both of my children had graduated from my school. My granddaughter, let's go this way. Okay, 22 years later, the charter school movement came into being. And by me living right there at where Roots Activity Learning Center was, I lived right there on North Capitol. Everybody knew me. ANC knew me, everybody. And so when the charter school movement began, they began to tell me they wanted me to please open a charter school. And some of them were saying, like, I know your tuition is low, but it's not low enough for me to bring my child. I just don't have it. And if they're going to have a charter school and it's going to be free and it's going to be, you get your tuition through the taxes of DC residents, why don't you just open one of those too? So that made sense to me. So I opened the charter school 22 years later. Bought a building, opened the charter school. So therefore, I have 2 buildings, one with the Roots Activity Learning Center, which actually is more than 2 buildings. It's really, that one school is actually 3 buildings, because when I first got the building, it was just on the end, and it was a hospital supplies, and they were moving out of the city. And so first I was just renting, but when they were moving out of the city, they said, well, we'll give you opportunity to buy. Well, I have excellent credit. So I just went to Industrial Bank. They gave me the money. I bought the building. Next door to me was a liquor store. When the people in the liquor store wanted to retire and sell their building, I bought that building. So it's attached on. And then later on, next to that was Magnolia Plumber. And when they decided they wanted to leave, they said the same thing. You're such a good neighbor, we'll give you first refusal. And I'm like, okay. So again, I went back to Industrial Bank, and I have a very close relationship with Industrial Bank. As a matter of fact, I own shares of the Industrial Bank. So I got the loan. So that's how that building now that you see has all of the children and everything for Roots Activity Learning Center. And then, as I said, when the charter movement came into existence 22 years later, and they asked me to do that, I saw another building on Kennedy Street, and I think it was some kind of car sales lot or something. They had a big lot with all these cars, but they were moving. And you know what? It's just God. It's really not me. It's really not me. Because when I was just growing up, I knew that inside of me, I had a purpose. And my purpose was to educate children. Okay. So when I was a baby, when I'm not really a baby, but a kid, that's all I did was play school. People would, I play some, what you see on here, this is a double Dutch. I play double Dutch and all that, but mostly I would play school. All the children in the neighborhood, I'm just playing school. And, when people would ask me, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, oh, I want to be a mommy and I want to have 100 kids. I just loved it. I knew it was inside of me. And so one day my father, I guess he was like, oh, Lord, don't let this child grow up and have 100 kids and not have any job. So he sat me down. He said, Bernita, you're really good with kids. But I think when people ask you that question, they want to know how are you going to support yourself? And you know what? Guess what? You can have 100 kids. You can get a school. You can be a teacher and have 100 kids. And that was my aha moment. And so from that point forward, I knew I wanted to have a school and have 100 kids. And that's exactly what happened. But it was the God force within me, and it was the God force taking me, because I wouldn't have known how to do any of that. I wouldn't have known how to get with Industrial Bank and have a relationship like that. I wouldn't have known how to buy commercial buildings and get I don't know how to do that. That's the God force that's.
Yes.
If you do what God tells you to do,
God bless your daddy.
He just opens the doors. He brings people to you.
Yeah.
He brought Reverend Rena to me. So it's not me. It's not me. It's the God force within me.
Absolutely.
Obeying what God has asked me to do. And he opens the doors. As long as you're doing what he tells you to do, he'll open the doors and, okay, go in here. Okay, here's some money. Go give that to whoever. Okay, here's some more money. Go do that. Do this. It's not for you. It's for this. It's for that. It's for my children. It's for whatever. And so when you do what the God force within you tells you to do, and you're excited about it, and you things just happen. So I'm very happy that all these things have happened for me, but I want you to know it wasn't me. It wasn't really me. It was the God force within me and our Creator who put all these things together and used me as a tool to do his bidding.
Absolutely.
But in actuality, it was you, because your daddy said you could have 100 children, but you didn't have to birth them.
That's right. That's right.
So the God in your daddy became the God in you, and you began to lead a movement.
Yes.
We praise the ancestors and the Most High God for you. I know, Baba Moses, I'm kind of out of order, but as I listen to my sister speak, I want us to recognize that our youth are our salvation, and the teachers prepare them for the future. Thank you, my sister Queen. Thank you.
Comment, Brother Julius. I'm not forgetful of the Institute of Positive Education that we started in Chicago in 1970, and the Black Tech Center that started first teaching culture. And all of that went with the movement that was in Newark with Baraka and there's other earlier schools. So there was a whole movement of freedom and liberation schools that initially came out of SNCC and then evolved into the Black Panther Party. But of course, we know the master teacher was Marcus Garvey.
Absolutely. And with that said,
no, go sister, because
I was going to say what that says is that early childhood was a new frontier.
Yeah.
There wasn't a curriculum.
No.
And I'm proud to be the first recipient of the first educational degree in early childhood administration. And that's how Bernita and I met, because the person who used to do the licensing in the District of Columbia said, I know a woman just like you. All she talks about is Africa and want to teach. So our stories kind of parallel because my sister just reminded me 56 years ago, I was in the park teaching bears and my dolls. And when I was discovered, it was because I wanted to have educated children in my basement as well. And I saw so many children in the early 70s when Department of Recreation lost funding. These children were in the streets at 3 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I had to convince my mother, let me put them in my basement and teach them.
Yes, yes.
From that recognition, Sterling Tucker and Billy Simpson said, this young girl has something she really needs to do. So they funded me a full scholarship to college. And at that time was the first university consortiums. I had to go to every university in the DMV, every college and every university, because there was no a curriculum for early childhood development. This was a brand new frontier. People didn't think Black children could learn anything. Play with toys, but toys are a learning experience. If you have an interdisciplinary curriculum like Bernita's, you can teach a child about things even with a simple toy.
Yes.
And a string, a bowl of yarn. So Bernita's curriculum and matching up with her changed my entire life. And since then, every place I went to teach, you had to have a standard. And every student and alumni can tell you, we left roots, got knowledge elsewhere and brought it back to her, but we all lived under one code of ethics, education, excellence. There was no room for error because even to learn a test wasn't about what you know, it was about what you didn't know. Let us teach us.
Yes.
Let us teach you that. Let us show you how you can learn. That kind of love generated and still does. Doctors, lawyers, scientists, chemists, techs, surgeons, they're alumni at Roots Activity Learning Center.
Yes, yes.
Parents were looking for a safe place to put their child that they loved and cared for. Where could they find such a place where they could be educated but loved? We're still their mommies, we're their aunties, we're their doctors. We are whatever they need to be because Bernita opened a safe haven. And the truth be told, the students weren't the first students, it was the teachers. She was teaching and training us on a new frontier. And everything comes after that. So do children learn? Can children be educated? They can be educated while they're in the womb. Sing to a child. They wake up with a song in their heart. The doctor might be thinking it's crying, but they've been hearing music the whole time in their mother's belly.
Yes.
Baba Mosey, may I
Thank you,
speak?
Rev. Let me, Mama Kabibi has had her hand up. I'll go to her and then I got to come back to Mama Bernita. You want to continue, right? So, Mama Kabibi?
Yebo, can you hear me?
Yes.
Asante Sana for this excellent information. I would like to bring attention to some of the other independent schools around the country. There was Haitiana in New Orleans.
Yes.
Already mentioned the school that was in Newark, New Jersey with Baraka. There was also a school at the East in Chicago. I think that was under the direction of Jitu Weusi. In New York, yes.
New York.
And in Chicago, my children were at New Concept Development Center, and Baba Hannibal Afriye had his school on the west side of Chicago, which was Shule Yawatoto. And we all did, as Mama Bernita stated, we all started the same way. knowing
Yes.
full well that we did not want our children in those doggone institutions.
Absolutely.
Put them in the beginning. As soon as they came off of our backs, they went into our preschools and they stayed, and we just added a grade, added a grade, added a grade until we got to where they were. And I would like for us to also acknowledge that our children in our independent schools have always performed a minimum of 2 grades ahead.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And the third thing is, you are right, Mama. Our children have gone into every profession, and because
Yes.
of the grounding that they received in Afrocentric education, they hold their own. They can
Yes.
go to toe with anybody in whatever profession they're in, whether it's medicine, engineering, you
Mhm.
name it, we've got our children out there. I also just want to add too that I'm in the process of going through Baba Hannibal Afrique's archives information. And all of the CB documents are in there, which is what I'm looking at. It is a treasure trove, and a tremendous amount of work has been put into this. And we are now, I think you all correct me if I'm wrong, on the 3rd generation of our children coming through these schools.
Yes.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
I bring it back to Mama Bonita.
Okay, I agree.
Awesome.
Everything that she said is absolute. And there are even the children that were in the 1st generation are teaching now in these schools, all of the schools also.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. No revolving door concept
Right.
in independent African education. We stay, we do the work, we do the labor. It's all a labor of love as well. It's a lack of revolving doors when it comes to the African Center School. That's unique in itself.
May I ask a question of you too? Can you speak to how our children perform best when they are around people who love them, who respect them, and expect something of them, and they really do respond when you hug them and encourage them? But in these foreign environments, there has to be concern about whether someone's going to touch them inappropriately and all of that. But our children respond best when they know that they are with mamas and babas who really love them and want their best. Can you all speak to that?
Okay. All right. I'll let this come to that. But first, let me go to Minister of Education, Mama Tendai.
I was just going to say, Mama Kabibi, you know, in CB, I'm one of the founders of Julius K. Nyerere Education Institute in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Then there was also Chad School, which was affiliated. Chad had Chad also in Liberia. And so within the CB institution, basically what we did, mamas, is that we, at least when I was at Nyerere, we sent our teachers to the CB Summer Institute so that they would gain the skills that we wanted them to have to be able to convey in the classroom for our students. And it started off with their personal discipline and physical capabilities. So folk had to get up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, exercise. We were already dealing with diet and other things of that nature to be able to help sustain us. And when you're talking about the children learning in the womb, when I had my daughter, that was a program that I basically experimented with in terms of playing music, doing all kinds of things of that nature, because I truly believed that our children were capable of learning from conception, you know, by the
Absolutely.
time.
Absolutely.
And we try to help to give them a head start by being able to work with them then. But Mama Kabibi, you are definitely correct, because, you know, now that I'm working with HBCUs, it's the same thing there. The children in our colleges need the same kind of love and commitment. And it's sad because many of them come into the HBCUs expecting to have an African-centered experience. And it's not there. There's a few of us, but for the most
Yeah.
part, it's not a continuation. But like you're saying, even when we had our school, if the children could get at least 1 to 2 years with us, if they didn't stay, they still, when they went back into the public school, they still outperformed. And when we had Urari Education Institute, we went up through the 12th grade. We did the same thing in terms of adding grades on. But I had a program in which I worked with the public schools since there weren't charters back in the 70s. Okay, and what I tried to do was to work with the public schools to get those children into our school in the after school programs and things of that nature. So I had high school students who were supposed to come in as tutors in the afternoons, after school and whatnot. My 3rd and 4th grade students outperformed them. So they couldn't tutor them.
Absolutely. But the question was, how do children learn?
Yeah.
When we understand the power that we have, we change the atmosphere. Every child, even my own, my children and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren stepped through Ruth's door. They felt safe. Safe equals love. So then when you feel safe, you know you're going to be loved. You're protected. Even if you want to take a book and sit on the floor. Not every child needs to sit at a table. Not every child needs a ditto sheet of paper to color. They're going to color off the lines anyway. It took years and years to get Crayola crayon just to come up with a rainbow of rounds for us. When they felt safe, they will learn and they will excel. They outdo themselves when they even discover for themselves how smart they are, how well accomplished, even to tie a shoe or open the door or to turn a latch. They discover about themselves, their own abilities in a safe environment. To this very day, nearly 50 years later, Roots is a safe place. Even in the daytime, the lights are on and they shine even brighter at night. Because alumni can sit outside that school and wait till the next day until Mama Bernina or some teacher comes and say, I need help. They know home. So the school Roots was home. It was an extension of what their parents were giving them. Those two pivotal things, a safe place that feels like an extension from home, a child will excel every time. Every time.
Yes, I'm going to be short because I really appreciate all this being shared. I want to add some things that I experienced with independent education. First of all, my eldest daughter went to Nation House, Watoto. My other 2 children went to our Unity Home Learning Center, which was done by Mama Zara, which was a teacher there. But I don't want to talk so much about that. I want to talk about Roots because Roots was not only a great educational institution, it was a community center. And I know what I'm saying, because it's a whole lot of people who came through Roots that went on to organize with us in the UNIA. And I got to mention Baba Kamal Robinson, who became one of the most powerful male principals in independent education, who sent curriculums all the way to South America and to various different other places where UNIA people were at. But in closing, it was a haven for family. And I want to make that clear, a family, an extended family, because not only that, some of the president generals that taught me and our president general now actually came to Roots. Brother Battle, Charles L. James, whole lot of people, Tony Martin, Runoko Rashidi, and all of them saw Roots as a family movement center. So in addition to the children being educated, the community was being educated. And I'm going to stop on that point because I just wanted to say that because Mama Bernina, we love you and your legacy. And I love the fact that you turned it all back over to the Most High and the ancestors, because that's what we all are. We all are reflections of those who came before us. And like the President General said, thank God for your father, but thank God for you too, Mama Bernita, because
Yes, absolutely.
a whole lot of students that came
Whole
through
lot.
group activities
Yes.
and the charter school have gone on to be great, not just professional people, but educators in an African-centered way. We had a
Yes.
group, Stop America from Eating the Young, that was an advocacy group, and we were able to even to network with not only Roots, but all the independent schools in Washington, D.C. welcomed us in. So we were doing that Saturday school thing. We were doing that teaching the child in the alley.
Yes.
But we got all of that from the independent African-centered schools. And
Absolutely.
up Baba Hannibal Afrique, who was one of the most powerful people in the UNIA and the PGRNA and many, many other things. But I want to stop on that point because as we go, I know the President General is chopping at the bit because he too was an independent Garvey School in Philadelphia. So I'm gonna stop on that and let the PG speak because I know where he's going with that because he
Thank you for doing that introduction, Brother Senghor. PG?
Asante Sana, as I listen, I am inspired because of the history, but I want to add, because Senghor, all of the sisters are all on target. The Marcus Garvey Shule of Positive Education was one of 4 independent institutions in the city of Philadelphia. One of 4. And then one of 5. I took my children into the institution prior to preschool, and each of them graduated, went on to other education institutions, but never lost sight of who the hell they are. And I think that's what's crucial. See, education isn't about reading, writing, and arithmetic. No, it's about who you are. I had the opportunity being a part of CB, the Council of Independent Black Institutions, to see this work done across the nation, to see science fairs where Black students build science projects to help Big Black in New York develop the mathematical system. I had the opportunity to do that because math was one of my subjects. I think it was my favorite one because I love playing with numbers. This is amazing. So when Baba Mosey put this together and I get the opportunity, this is like being back there because I am interfacing with the energy that got me here. So when I see my children who were educated African-centered and I talk to professors, you notice I didn't say teachers, professors and doctors that elevated education to a system of liberation, because that's what education is. It's a system of liberation. When you take a child at 4 years old and begin to teach them who they are, it prevents them from swallowing the pills of incarceration or enslavement, believing that America is the answer. We are our answer. I not only salute independent institutions, one of our students is a major force in the political institutions in Philadelphia, to the point that the system wanted to eradicate her, but they couldn't remove her. She has that much power, influence based on degrees. We have on this call a young brother, Sam P.K. Collins, who is as influential and informative as everyone mentioned. But what it shows is the continuation of our mission. Baba Mosey going to tell me to be quiet in a second, so I'm going to try to do. Let me say this. I know my brother. Educating our children as to who they are, their history, not connected to this history, but who they are connected to it. And even if they don't get it, let them be connected to you, because you become their lantern or their light as they grow. It's not education in the institution, it's education in life. African people raised us. My grandmother, my great-grandmother may not have had a degree that the university said okay, but they had a degree in life. They had a degree in salvation. I'm educated by people who have degrees. My aunt, my last surviving aunt, is a tenured professor from the Cincinnati University. She grew up in North Philadelphia on 30th Street, y'all. That's where I grew up. Let me understand. Let me explain.
Yes.
This is about raising the bar. She,
Yes.
at this point, is my last surviving relative. I honor her in mentioning her name, but I want everyone to know that that is the message that we have to prepare our children for.
Yes.
It's not us. It's all of us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm stopping now, Baba Mosey.
Thank you, PG, and I think you made a good presentation there for, or I should say, an introductory presentation there for Sam PK. Rasplo, tell me something. Tell me how you're relating as this young, educated, this person who is also a journalist, and I know you're touching all those bases people are talking about, because you're getting around to all these schools. Well, give me an idea, or let's say, give us your perspective of the independent Black schools and where they're going or where they should be going. Tell me.
No doubt. Peace and blessings, Habari Ghani, to everyone on the call tonight and everybody watching live. As was said already, my name is Sam P.K. Collins. I've been an educator going on, this is my 7th year. So I'll be completing my 7th year this summer.
Good.
I've been a journalist, between college and professionally, I've been a journalist about 15 years now. So, so in terms of education, what I do is, my goal is to show young people the practicality of writing and to show them how writing can help them understand who they are and how we can use writing to be custodians of our history and how they can use writing to propagandize their lives in order to affect change. And part of my curriculum, because I develop curricula as an instructor, I use primary source documents. For example, Marcus Messiah Garvey's African Fundamentalism. I use Sojourner Truth's speech, Ain't I a Woman? I use Thomas Sankara's speeches. I use Martin Luther King's letter from Birmingham jail. I use Malcolm X's Ballad of the Bullet. I take out portions of Ida B. Wells's work, and the list goes on and on. Even Winnie Mandela's speech before a group of parents after the Soweto uprisings. Primary source documents that allow us to first examine the history, the context around the event. And then from there, students, they get to read, and they're learning how to read, break down the sound out words. They're learning how to annotate text. They're learning how to comprehend and analyze. It's an entire process where at the very end, after they take the annotations in which they've underlined sentences and they wrote notes in the corner, they're able to use that to answer questions. And this whole process, from comprehension to analysis to writing, it builds resolve in them. It helps them get used to starting a project and completing it. It helps build their brain muscle, but most importantly, it helps them learn more about their history, because as they're reading the text, they're understanding how much they might not know or how much they need to know about these great people who we're reading about. And then it opens the door for us to learn about the context of that time. One more person I forgot to bring up, Fannie Lou Hamer, her speech in Mississippi with the Freedom Mississippi Party, Mississippi Freedom Party. So various opportunities for students to learn about their history, to learn about what it means in this country, to be an African person. And we don't learn about it from the aspect of struggle. We learn about it from the aspect of self-determination, because writing is about self-determination. So if you visit a website, and I'm going to give you guys time to write this down, a website by the name of the Watoto Speak. you have samplings of works that young people have written under my tutelage. Various texts, stories, articles, essays. And these are opportunities, or matter of fact, this is the culmination of a process, that they went through with me, the writing process, right? So writing, anybody can write. We go through the writing process and we do it like it's second nature. But as a young person, especially in a technologically advanced world where AI is taking over, whichever way, they have to learn how to write. They have to learn how to conceptualize ideas because the phones are zapping their brains. So we actually go through the process and we start with topics that relate to them. So first you got to think of an idea, or you got to answer the question. Your answer to the question is your thesis. And then from there, you got to start outlining it. Well, what are the 3 reasons why your thesis is true? You outline it and then you start writing. And then we play games from there. We play the sentence train. Each student goes around in a circle, gives us a sentence. The last sentence, well, the next sentence builds off the previous sentence. And before you know, we have a paragraph. And one more thing, in terms of the classroom, the chairs and the tables are circular or like in a half circle. We have reasoning sessions, Yuruhu, they might call it Socratic sessions. We call it reasoning sessions. I don't really give answers. I ask questions and I see where they go with it. And then we get to the answer, and then everything is project-based. So they get projects from me. And most of our time in the classroom, if I'm not teaching, I'm watching them do the work and I'm guiding them along the process as they work out stuff together. I've had the opportunity to do this at Nation House for going on 6 years. I've also done it in a charter school, the name of which I will not reveal. And I've also done it with the Sankofa Homeschool Collective as an instructor teaching journalism, teaching creative writing, and teaching argumentative writing. And I'm also doing it as a tutor. I tutor young people with, college application season coming upon us. I'm pretty sure a couple of them will be coming to me about applications. And like I said before, this is the perfect time for young people to find out who they are, because we have living zombies walking among us. And, I think teenagers, for the most part, every generation had their zombies, because this is Babylon. There's a lot going on. And we have people following people who don't know what they're talking about. So as a young person, you got to be able to know who you are. You got to be able to introspect. You got to be able to look within yourself and figure out your relation to the world. But how can you do so when you don't have an African identity? And without an African identity, it doesn't matter what profession you take on, you're still going to be working within the interest of the Babylon system, which is why we give a foundation that is African-centered. You expose young people to African text. They have George Washington, they have Thomas Jefferson and Hamilton over there, but I give them Garvey, I give them Ida B. Wells, I give them Amy Jocks Garvey, I give them Fannie Lou Hamer, I give them any person who is self-determined or a person who espouse self-determination. And that's how you inculcate African-centered education within the curriculum, especially through writing. One last thing before I, move on. The book that Baba Mosi mentioned, Babylon Be Still, we also use this as source material for my classes. I had a chance to visit Eastern High School. I visited Eastern High School. I had about 3 sessions. They read through the text. The very last day of my session was on May 25th, which is African Liberation Day. So on that very day, I set up the RBG flag. We talked about that. We talked about Martin Delaney versus Frederick Douglass. It created a very, very powerful discussion, because a lot of these young people, they're going to the 10th and the 11th grade, but they've been so entrenched in the system, they're not getting this information, and they're not really aware of a system outside of public school, right? So they're getting this information, and some of them didn't get it, but the 2 who did, I've since formed relationships with them where we're reasoning over text message. We go out to eat. Very soon, hopefully, I might be able to engage them and another young person in some more studying. So we got to build relationships, because life's a cycle. As the elders go on, we need young people up behind them. And these young people are very hands-on. They got the skills. They know about stocks and trading. They know about, vocational work. but they need that African foundation. So they're not going off to work for the military industrial complex or for, you know, any other institution that is against African people. They need to understand and understand that they have the skills, but they just need to use it in interest of African people. You know, so that's what it's all about. Giving them that foundation and showing them that they can be African-centered and successful at the very same time, because that's the lie that they've been fed. And, you know, one last thing, I've been rapping for a minute, man. You know, listen, man, like the Wayans brothers and other entertainers, they have vilified African-centeredness over the years, you know, with these skits, calling us hoteps and this and that. They've discouraged the majority of us from entering our institutions. The very same way that I attempt to inculcate education, and we've attempted to inculcate education into children, they've done so as well through their propaganda by, you know, vilifying African-centered people. So we got to strike back at whichever way possible, and we got to involve the families. I talk to mamas and babas, right? Because you talk to them, you talk to the kids. If you create a relationship, then you got the kids. It's all about the kids, man. Asante Sana. Asante Sana.
Absolutely wonderful.
Thank you, my
Excellent.
good brother.
Wonderful.
Now, I would like you to talk about some of these schools that you've touched around the city. You're probably one of the few people. No, I shouldn't say that. I'm one of the few people who don't know all the African-centered schools, but I'm sure you can give me an idea of you know, your touching base with them. And Mama Bernita said if they're part of the association, the CB, or not, you know, I guess you wouldn't know if they're not part of the CB. Is that it, or you hear about them? I mean,
I know Nation House for sure.
How many around, and are they being effective?
I know I have a relationship with Nation House, of course. Baba Senghor and I, and of course yourself, we've built a relationship with Roots, you know, doing community service and all that. You also have Ujima, of course. You have the Sankofa Homeschool Collective. You have the Wilson Baker Academy in PG County, you know, very, very effective program. And you also have Kuumba Institute in Southeast off of right there on MLK Avenue. So they do arts-based education, music, things like that, African Center Foundation. And then you also have people homeschooling. You know, I think homeschool has been very popular over the last decade. If they're not homeschooling with Sankofa, they're off doing their own thing. You have mamas and babas. Oftentimes, they might reduce their incomes from 2 to 1 just to create that time to be with their young ones, and they use the city, but they might use cultural events. You know, they go to drumming events. I know over in Mount Rainier, they had Baba Mahiri, you know. If they're not involving them in that, they're involving them, you know, in rights. You know, Nation House, they got a rights program as well. So it's all inclusive. It's as if it's his own community, you know. And you know, to be honest with you, I understand the reason for it being so insular. At the very same time, I'm brainstorming ways in which we can make it a bit more expansive, you know, to a lot of the youth. And Mama Bernita has been a pioneer in that, you know, by making Roots Public Charter School, you know, accessible to young people. Not a lot of African-centered institutions are able to weather the storm with that. And you know, and speaking of the article that I wrote about her, I was able to acknowledge that. I think that's very powerful, you know, making it accessible, because, you know, it's a competition out here. You know, after COVID, a lot of the parents, they were about that African-centered education, but they went back. They were under pressure. And look what happened after they went back. All across the United States, they're banning libraries, they're pulling books out. They're talking about canceling AP classes right when they got you in for your taxpayer funds, you know? So it's very important. So I'll name it again. Of course, Roots, Nation House, Kuumba, Wilson Baker Academy, Sankofa Homeschool Collective.
Thank you.
Yes,
you know, I apologize to all those people for not being in contact with them or dealing with, but we're gonna, you know, this is important, and especially the homeschooling part. I think we're gonna have to get to that at some point. But yeah, you related quite a bit there, and as a young person, a young educator, and the enthusiasm you're displaying in wanting to bring our youth to a point where they can, well, I should say, respect themselves to the point where the issues we have today with violence and disrespecting themselves for just because of how they look, or you know what they wear, or you know, this is why I say that shaping the minds of our young people, Africanizing them, is very important for us, because otherwise they're going to fall into this trap that comes with the hip hop culture. Not that I'm not talking about the positive hip hop culture, but that negative hip hop culture. Mama Tenda, you had your hand up first.
I just wanted to basically say something in terms of applauding Mama Berdina also for being able to weather the storm with the chartered school. Because, you know, in DC, several other chartered schools were started. You know, Mama Maisha Washington had the Science and Technology School. We had several others. And when they began to really reach out and have the kind of effect that went beyond schooling and became real education, they were no longer supported financially. So, you know, so Mama Bernita's been able to weather the storm and to do the things that many others haven't. And I just want to applaud her and the Reverend for the work that has been done. She's laid the foundation for us. So it's following what she's been able to do now to expand on that. You know, and like we said, homeschooling, I put one in here. I've been working with Sister Thais with University. Okay, and so we want to bring her into the fold, Sam, okay, to work with us as well. So Mama Bernita, it's just thank you so much. I mean,
Santa.
Yes, thank you it's limited for the gratitude that we have for what you have provided for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The other effects. I'm reminded of working with Mama Maisha, was that when I was able to bring Mama Maisha into the public school systems in Baltimore, they were shocked that she was one of the only teachers who could actually teach Black children, command their attention, and make them progress and learn their skill sets. They didn't know how to handle it. They didn't know how to repeat that. But that comes from the teaching that came from the independent schools.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Regardless of what the assimilation is with the oppressor, we have more power than any oppressor. If you want to release the oppressor, just go head on and love him like we do our children. We don't have a lot of time to keep looking at what the oppressor does. We are changing the world. The only thing Mama Bernita ever made any parent believe that the greatest investment was in their child, the sacrifice. Our great-grandmothers made less money and did more because they made a sacrifice. They were investing in us. The investment is not always money. The money will come. It will sustain any school, any movement. But the investment is the energy of love. It's providing a safe place. The money will come. Did we really want to make a profit off the investment of a child? We work nearly for nothing and still do today. It's not about money, it's about investment. It's about a new simulation, a new liberation. The beats still go on. We still have power. You can tap into it, affirm someone else. These are the elements that Sam says are missing from a generation. Who's going to teach them? We still do. Children who run through the alley and not at home at 9 o'clock on a school night, teach them right there for that moment. They'll end up saying, thank you, go home, be safe. Watch out for yourself. They'll thank you. We don't stop teaching. As we age, we still can bear fruit in our old age. Invest in them. The investment is paying off. Give a few extra minutes like Sam does. We're still going to do what he recommended for us to do. We'll do this until we can no longer do it. You learned that from the very beginning of independent African education. You're going to do this for the rest of your life. If you miss out that this is a lifelong journey of commitment, then it folds. And then the oppressor would have won. Child children, don't worry about the lion roar. Kill it, destroy it. Dismantle its teeth with love and unity within a very small knit community, and it will expand and be explosive. Alumni, independent students are around the world right now as we speak. They are around this globe changing and moving. We may not have all the information, but I guarantee you, talk about them, pray about them, affirm them when you hear. Just imagine where they are. They are all scattered around the world because of independent education across the board, whether they were here for a year or 10 years. They've already done the great work. Now more will come. Let's bring it in. Let's pray. Let's affirm. Let's affirm through our prayers that they're coming in because we've done great work because of investment, love, energy, kindness, weakness. There's no law against any of that from any oppressor.
PG, you had your hand up. You had something to say?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay.
Because the sister queen, whom I give most reverence to, spoke truth to power. I have been blessed to have had students that I've had educated to come and speak to me in their adult form that mirrors their youth form. And I'm trying to like, okay, struggle the name, but however, their commitment and their creation and their contribution is unmatched.
Yeah.
We, at some point, need to make a call to students of independent institutions so that they know that they not only are recognized, that they are needed and that their education was essential. We know their education gave them the ability to do the things they do today. As an example, in the Philadelphia educational systems, one of the students of the Marcus Garvey Shule of positive education is a superintendent. We need to make the call.
Yes.
She has not lost her way, but what happens is you teach them, they use it, and then they get caught up in the system. We challenge the system to educate them. We have to challenge the systems because of their education. We and those ancestors that were before us, Hakeem Adabudi, as an example, laid a foundation for education. We have to take that educational foundation to the next level and then allow those young people who are now adults to take it to the next level.
Yes.
We have not failed.
No, we have not. That's right.
We have not failed.
Definitely not.
Independent education, independent institutions are critical for racial development. What we have done is prepared people to function in a system that works against them, but they have to be able to work within it. We prepared them. They are our agents of change.
Absolutely. They can dismantle it. That's right. Absolutely.
Yes, man. Not only this, they dismantle it, they can then rebuild our system.
Absolutely.
Because our system of education was the independent Black institutions.
Yes.
It was not taking money from the other system. It was building it based on who we are and what we do. We have those agents. We have to
Yes.
call them and
Yes.
say, look upon your roots and therefore contribute to our racial global development. We keep looking for someone else or something else to plant that seed. The independent Black institutions, the Council of Independent Black Education
Yes. And
did that.
it did that. Absolutely.
It did that.
Absolutely.
We have to nurture the crop
Yes.
and then watch and reap the harvest.
Can you say
Julius?
that one more time?
We have to
Excuse me.
watch and reap the
Julius had
harvest.
his hand up. Julius, are you finished, PG?
I'm done.
I wanted to add
Well
an
said.
expansion
Well
to the
said.
idea because it can seem to be localized. What Sister Maisha did before she passed, as we internationalize the independent school, as a result of the COVID, it allowed us to open a Zoom school, an African-centered Zoom school internationally, and make contact with African students on the continent, and then
Yeah.
integrate them with Africans in the Americas. So they started to learn each other and have a relationship with each other. That's the program that's in the future for us as Pan-Africans.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Abusengo?
Yes. Julius, you right on cue with what you just said, because that's what I want to bring into the conversation is, you know, in the PG, you're absolutely right. The key is what we have been able to achieve with African-centered education over the years, and we haven't lost anything. What we need
That's
to
right.
do now, though, is to bottle it and create the system that can educate Africans all over the world from an African-centered perspective, from infancy all the way up, even into young adulthood. And
Yeah.
what I mean by that is because majority of Africans on the continent are under 30, the majority. And we have divisions in the UNIA in Africa who are starving for education. And it's very important, though, that we put together the curriculums that were passed to us. And that's one of the things Baba Kamal was strong on, Mama Bonita, was to pass on that information to other. He did it with Colombos in South America, sending them with particular plans of how to use structure. And I know for a fact, and I'll stop because we have the Minister of Education on here, who's building a global educational committee to address issues, because many of our adults, and I want to go back to the family, many of our adults need to be re-Africanized in an African-centered way with education. And if you don't, if you're dealing with the family, you got to deal with the parents as well as the youth. And that's
Absolutely.
the concept of the independent schools.
Yeah.
You couldn't deal with the child without dealing with the parents in the independent school.
Absolutely.
And that's the concept we got to get back to, because Sam is absolutely right. We got to get away from this AI, artificial intelligence, and get back to ancestral intelligence.
Intelligence. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well said. Well said. Yes, indeed.
Mama Tendai, do you have I think the PG just called first PG just called on you.
I didn't want to.
No, I had already put in the chat.
Yes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I had already put it in the chat about ancestral intelligence. And what I am calling for is an international education committee to redevelop us and our direction going forward. Because it can't be one person's ideas, one person's this, that, or the other. We've got all this collective energy, experience, and ideas here. We all have to work together to pull it together to go forward. And I'm really grateful that Sam is here.
Yeah, and by the way, Mama Tendai, you mentioned that, excuse me, Baba Mosi, Sam is real modest. Brother Sam represents the chairperson for the Pan-African Fellows Movement youth of the world. So I just want to let y'all know, see, Sam is very, very, very humble brother, but he's working to connect with other like-minded young brothers and sisters around the world. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Sam, you might want to speak to that, because you know y'all been kicking it.
Oh yeah. We met in Harlem, so it's actually, I represent North America, but Baba Senghor is right. We work with young people around the diaspora pretty much. We convened in New York on Malcolm X's birthday weekend, developed a resolution dealing with all the problems that young people are experiencing in North America. But the resolution, more importantly, talked about what a united African states would do to solve that. So right now, at this point in our movement, we're collaborating further with young people on the continent. One particular brother in West Africa who's leading the charge. We got connections with him, a sister in East Africa, two brothers in Nigeria, and another brother in Kemet. So that's the nucleus for now, but it's definitely going to expand. We want to produce similar programs. North America's the vanguard, not to say that nothing else is happening anywhere else, but we sort of been very intentional, and it's trial and error over the last 3 years or so. But the overall goal is to involve young people. We got campaigns out in New York and DC focusing on education. In New York, they've been very particular about supporting the independent schools and just further consolidating that work. And we're all about coalition building. So, a lot of young people carrying on the vision. A lot of young people very eager to connect with the elders as well. So, you could count on us calling on some of y'all to conduct courses about, Garveyism at some point and what that means as far as, creating the United African States. Because Garvey was the provisional president of Africa, if I recall correctly, So this was a vision that was handed down from him to Nkrumah and then now to us. So, just real happy to be here and, doing the work.
I just want to mention that Dr. Chenzara was here, but we lost her. She is, our representative in the Caribbean. So we're engaged in there through her and all of her work that she's done. She just left the University of the Virgin Islands to basically do all of this work. She's president of I can't think of what the Caribbean Studies Association. Yes.
Okay.
But she's the assistant president of
second
time with Baba Senghor.
Yeah, she's the second assistant president general, but a great educator, by the way. And not only her, but Nepkara, her husband, is also a great educator. So, and she also deals with Central America and the Caribbean. And so, and then they have a group called Per An. So we have a lot of loaded guns, but not enough. If y'all hear what I'm saying. So, because, and I know the PG has his hand up. And one of the things that I want all the educators here to know, whatever institution you're dealing with, I'll be coming to you to get a decree of Mahat, agreeing to work alongside us as we build forward, because that's important too, because sometimes we are unified, but we don't have, I don't want us to use the word MOU, I like to say decree of Mahat, because that's what we have to get back to, is basically Ubuntu and Mahat, the principles and the values, so that we can address some of these issues Baba Mosi was talking about with some of our lost young brothers and sisters and lost families. I can't always say young brothers and sisters. I have to say families, because if the family was together, then the youth would be very much locked in.
Absolutely. There is Mama Sia Ferguson, who's in Liberia. She has schools there in Liberia. She is also educating young women to get their degrees in early childhood and elementary education. And she's a longtime supporter of Roots, and her daughter Malika has been an educator and a student there. So she's been a great supporter for over 40 years. We have another alumni, Elisa Child. She's a professor that goes in and out of South America, looking at the lifestyles of Africans in South America with independent education. We have Lisa Childs and Lita Owens, who has an independent educational institution for young teenagers who came out of high school, who do not have reading skills, who do not have remedial skills even in reading or math. These are high school students who have graduated on reading levels third and fourth grade. She has taken that group in of young adults to not only provide education for them, but accredited courses and preparatory college and giving them life skills so they can get back into the community and do the work. So there is a great deal of work. We need to be able to pull together and find out who's doing what and share it among us. That's also very pivotal to help us keep abreast. And you're right. Whoever said this, we really need to go back and have a re-education or a reboot for our generation.
Yeah.
We're 50 years into this thing, but a reboot would help us too. Amen.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And keep our fire still well lit so others can see the way. So there is still great work being done. And I think that we're going to really be surprised when we find out where these alumni are from the independent institution. I truly believe they're around the globe. And I just want to just lift them up and just thanking them for where they are. Most of us at Roots Activity Learning Center, we keep up with our alumni from the time they're infant to adults.
And I'm saying, Mama, all we're trying to do is, I'm about coalition.
Yes, absolutely.
Coalesce with all of the.
We need to support you. Absolutely, absolutely,
So we
absolutely.
continue to reinvent the wheel when we've got all of the folk who
We've got it all here. Yes, absolutely.
It's about pulling it together so that we have the synergy to be able to go forward to expand on what it is that we're trying to do.
Absolutely.
We already know what the end result produces.
Baba Mosey.
Yes, sir. You may go ahead.
So can I lower my hand?
I would think so.
Okay. As I have listened and I concur, I want us to stop for a moment and recognize what we have done. Because what we want to do is not based on this conversation. It's truly based on the work that we have done. What we don't do is hail up our work and therefore hail up our students and hail up the accomplishments of the work of an independent African education. Doesn't matter if it took you to 6th grade, 7th grade, 5th grade, it laid the foundation.
Yes.
Because it is the foundation upon which you build. You don't build a house on the 2nd floor, you build the house on the ground. We've laid the groundwork. Let's hail up the members and their accomplishments, and then you can call them back to their root. If I go out and I accomplish and no one says, you remember that you were educated at Nitamu Sasa in Philadelphia, Marcus Garvey Shule in Philadelphia, Roots, if you don't ever call them back because of the system that we live under, they may not connect the dots.
Yeah.
If we are the educators, let us connect the dots. As I listened to all of you, Sam made excellent points, and I'm pulling on Sam because he spoke to what he is doing and what is being done. And I say to Sam, those youth have to be connected to the root that got you. See, because if they just connected to you, they're easily swayed by their generational pull of technology. Connect them to the root. As a teacher, and there are teachers on this call, when you see your former students, what do they remember you by? What you taught them. Therefore, you connect them back to the root. I had a student the other day meet a person that worked for me and said, Baba Akili taught me math. That's the root of how I can engage her and continue to move her in this work of liberating people of African descent worldwide. Education is not book learning, it is life learning. All of us have been students of life.
Mhm.
All of us. I've listened to you, all of you, speak about your experiences with every institution that you work with, the accumulation of land, the development of institutions. And I say to you, those are the lessons we have to teach those who have benefited from your lesson. You didn't start off that way. You grew that way. Knowledge is power. It's the most powerful instrument we have. I don't want to learn about Black Wall Street. I want to learn about the continent of Africa before 1 BC, the 7,000 years of history that people want to erase.
Mm.
I want to know Africa before the white man. Before the white man. I want to know Africa before Egypt was labeled Islam, when Egypt was labeled Africa. Those are the lessons we have to teach, but those are the lessons that you have already taught. We have to connect the dots, and that's what our education has to be. In the world we live in 2022, the white man has taken our youth and said, you okay, you can make it, here's your way. What we have not said is, this is your way for us to make it. It's not about you. Thank you, Baba Mosey. I won't speak anymore,
Well
Baba
said.
Mosey.
So,
Thank you, PT.
Baba Mosi, I just want to acknowledge my brother Wayne Cook, Black Seeds, the Black Seeds calendar, which is an educational phenomenon that's been going around the world. He's here with us. I just wanted to acknowledge that because a lot of us, but everybody knows the Black Seeds calendar.
Yes.
Back during the safety days, Black Seeds was also rolling as an advocacy group, an organization. And when they put together this calendar goes all around the world. And it is one of the most, it probably is the most African-centered calendar because it's actually loaded with up-to-date current information, historical, and all of that. So I just wanted to let people know we got Ronald Wayne Cook with us, Baba Mosi. So I don't know.
Yeah, it certainly is an educational instrument that all Africans worldwide need to get their hands on because, you know, I every year there's something that I see. As a matter of fact, the reference in readings and books, etc. I mean, that alone
Absolutely
is worth the money.
Absolutely.
It's a great instrument for education. And I thank the brother, and I also thank Baba Zama because I know Baba Zama, he is also involved in dealing with that. Great work for these brothers. Now, I have one question because, you know, we fast time, but I have one question to ask all educators. What do you think is the worst obstacle educators have in dealing with progressing our young people? The greatest obstacle, what is it? Why have somehow we're not getting to where we ought to be with these young people who are, I'm saying they're falling to the wayside, but it's not all of them, but even one is too many. Tell me. Baba Mink?
All right. I would say self-confidence and identity. The reason I had raised my hand was to introduce the idea of the University of Ancestral Arts, which would teach life lessons. So you would have a degree in a sense of speaking, of learning how to prepare yourself in all the ways of building family, reinstilling the culture, how you grow food, how you clean water, how you live without Urugu's system supporting you. University of Ancestral Arts.
Excellent.
Thank you, sir. Yes, anybody want to take up that question that I put forward? The obstacle that is, I would say, the worst obstacle we have to jump over or bypass or clear out of the way in order for us to have control in educating our young people. And maybe the question is not clear, but if somebody wants to tackle it, I may go to another question. If
I have my hand
Yo,
up.
Baba Kili?
Yes, sir.
I
And,
see your
and I
hand up.
know, yeah, I have my hand up.
Hmm.
Our issue is solidifying what the European has determined as progress and success with our young people. So we have to change the value system. All of us on this call, I speak, and if I'm incorrect, I apologize, learned a different value system as we grew up. We learned the English was Saba. We learned a different value system. We learned it. And then for us who have been teachers and also examples, you lived it and therefore you taught it. Our youth don't have the number of examples in the light that we did. We have to change that. So in order to come up with a different and a more successful mathematical solution, we have to redefine the formula to success. Currently, the formula to success is a universal degree and being hired by a white company. Universal success. We have to make universal success being well educated and raising your people to the next level of independence and therefore building a free and independent African nation, the next level of success. It's our job to prepare them to do that. We continue to let education prepare them to do the things that support the system that oppresses us and excludes us and therefore terminates us. We have to change that domino. We did that with African institutions. What we did in African institutions was teach African children that regardless of what school you go to, your greatness is within you. Therefore, we created doctors and doctorates, and we created those who could take the curriculums of other institutions because of their foundation and go forth and go be fruitful and then function within the society and system that they have. We have to make the foundation of education and life lessons African-centered based on our historical reference and who we are.
Thank you, sir. Baba Senghor, a quick one? All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna be quick. I said it earlier. I said it earlier. I'm gonna be very quick. We got to go back to African family values, man. It's simple. It's really simple. We got to go back to ancient African family values and follow what our ancestors did, where they were successful before Urugu was on the scene. So we got to fetch it. Like Tony Browder said, we got to go back to ancestral intelligence.
Yes, that's my phrase. And I'm saying,
All right.
Berdina said, when you teach them, when you're doing that, you're teaching culture. Culture is our foundation.
All right. My question it's coming another way here because and it's only how my concept of what is the greatest obstacle, and that is subliminal messaging coming from the media from all directions. It's something we don't feel, something we can't taste, but subliminally we are being messaged not to be ourselves, as you would say, coming from ancestral intelligence, so to speak.
Yeah, artificial intelligence is the opposite of ancestral intelligence. Artificial intelligence is the brainwashing, the murdering, and the killing of the mindset of all humanity. So I just try to keep it simple, Baba. But we have the engineer, Baba Haru is on with us. Engineers solve problems. And I know he got a good answer. Brother Haru?
You may have an answer for me too. Okay, let me hear.
One of the things when you think about culture, spiritualism, society, is that one of the things that when an invader comes in to invade a land or a people is that they cut them off with their culture, their history and the connections. And what they're doing is that they cut in the energetic ties. When you start to introduce foreign concepts to the mind, and it's an entrapment, it's like a psychic energetic entrapment that exists. And with this current onslaught for the past 300 plus years, is that there is a continued effort to put false historical narratives in a social construct. And it's a mathematical, spiritual mathematics at play. So when they start to infuse their own quote unquote structured spiritual system, which is artificial and not ancestral based, is that they mathematically are preventing the psychic linkages between ancestral data records. So that's why it's important when you talk about history and culture, is that you really have to go back, because each person has access to millions of years of historical records. So when the quote unquote the invaders materially construct the education system, they statistically are spiritually cooking the destructive forces, so you can't connect back to your ancestral records and your spiritual lineage.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I knew you had an answer for us, Haru, that was science par excellence. Engineers solve problems, brother. And Brother Haru is a great one at that. But anyway,
my answer is seize the power, seize the land. Africa for Africans and those at home and those abroad.
Know thyself.
I'm saying that only to say I'm bringing this to a close. And I want to thank everyone for being on here this evening. This has been a great discussion. And we can't, it's not the end of it, because there's just too much to deal with. And once again, Mama Bernita, congratulations on your next step, and you're moving on. And I know you may be moving on to have a little more time, but you know what you've done and what you still will be doing is keeping that school going. And so I congratulate you again for your persistence, for your resilience, and for the fact that you have been able to encourage a whole lot of other people to get out there and open schools too. This is what I was alluding to, in the sense of if you have obstacles in educating our people, then we need to have more schools. And that may be not, we need to have more people with the courage and the willingness, and the ability to gain the resources, to get those resources that will help them to build and create more schools, and therefore educating our people with an African mind. And I thank you. Baba, oh, the PG will close for us, but first let me hear Julius. You had something to say.
That it was at Mama Bernita's school at Roots.
Okay.
That Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture taught the most important lesson I've ever been taught. What is the difference between being an animal and being a human? and understanding what it means to have humanity. And when you talk about AI, you're talking about animal. And we're talking about humanity. How do we raise humanity to live in peace and justice?
Thank you, Baba Julius. Baba Mink, that's the word there for wisdom.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. PG,
Yes,
close
sir.
for us.
Is it for me?
Close for us.
I will do the best possible. I'll lower my hand.
Yeah.
As I have listened to us tonight, truly the value of education has been highlighted across the board. Highlighted in education has been the teaching of our current young people and laying for them the foundation for which they should follow, giving them the ancestral path. It also speaks to the value of independent institutions that lay the foundation for those who are coming next. We are blessed not to only face a single generation, but to face 2, maybe 3. And what we do will change the dichotomy of the world that we live in. Africa needs to be freed from all European interventions so that it can develop the unity of a nation and become one of a single voice. African people spread out across the world who have been exposed to the variations of educational institutions need to have a single voice based on a single value system that speaks to where and how we function to raise our people, which means an African consciousness, which is the purpose of the Universal Negro Improvement Association, African Communities League, and the Rehabilitating Committee of 2020, to lay not the foundation, but to lay the next tier. I respect and realize that our ancestors did the yeoman's job. Other than that, none of us would be here. None of us would have these positions and thought processes. So I say to all of us, get you a young person, 40 years and younger. Okay, Sam, you might have to go younger because I don't know how old you are. Get you a young person that will hear what you say, that can buy into what you believe, because then we raise the voices that speaks to the generation. We have to put forth the institutional messages that makes a difference. The Universal Negro Improvement Association, African Communities League, Rehabilitating Committee 2020, through its Division 330 out of Washington, D.C., have taken the lead and the charge to say Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad. So lived the Honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey, Amy Jacques Garvey, and those men and women like Thomas W. Harvey, Charles R. James, that all have come before us. And you say, you didn't name enough sisters. So let me name some sisters. Amy Ashwood Garvey. Yeah, I can feel the vibe. Amy Ashwood Garvey, Henrietta Vinton Davis, Jean
Yeah.
Slappy, Mae Ferguson, Brenda Thomas, our very own first Assistant Secretary General. So sisters, not only do I recognize your value and your worth, a slogan of RC 2020, which I stand completely by, is African Women Lead. You notice I didn't say follow, I don't say connected. You lead. It is our job to secure your path. That's what education has taught me, to secure your path.
Thank you,
Because
thank
that's liberation. That's freedom. That's an African nation. That's building the government that will free our people. We do it with you, through you, for you. And any male that takes a position that you are less than he is incorrect and will face the wrath of this black man. Ashe.
Ashe,
Lisa's
ashe.
blessings. Lisa's blessings all. Until next time, I want to say again, thank you very much for being on. All right. Take care.
All right, good night, good
Asante
night.
Sana
An
to you,
honor.
Baba Moses, all your sister
One
queens,
destiny.
Asante Sana,
one
an
God,
honor.
one aim, one destiny.
Yes. An honor, an honor, an honor.
I have been honored. Thank you, Baba Moses.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
an honor.